We are joined by Jason, Darren, and Scott from Faceship Games. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Hello, thanks for having us here.
Okay, so Faceship Games, I think you're quite a new company to the whole sphere. Can you give us a bit of background on who you are and what your plans are?
Absolutely, yeah. Darren and I actually, we go back even further than Faceship Games. We started, I started another company in 2012 called Geek Fever Games, and then we brought Darren into that company in 2015, I think. So he and I have been designing games together for a while. And then in 2018, we decided to start up Faceship Games because we really wanted to go beyond design and really step into the publishing world in a real way. So 2018 was kind of the starts of Faceshift, yep. And then we found Scott sometime later that year, and that's then the rest is everything we're going to be talking about.
Yeah. So 2020 obviously threw a curveball to all of us in the industry. How did it affect you guys?
So the timing unfortunately worked out. It was unfortunate. So we launched Dungeon Drop on Kickstarter in 2019 in June and ended in July. And 2020 we fulfilled in February.
Yeah.
Which was our target.
We got in just
under COVID, but the downside was this was our year to be in front of people in every major convention. We had lined up Origins, Gen Con, UK Games Expo. We were all booked for a physical booth there. Actually, UK Games Expo was going to be our grand world launch. That was the first con of the year. And then, of course, Essen and PAX Unplugged, all the big ones. This was our year to be face-to-face, selling Dungeon Drop, playing it with the audience. And because it's such a tactile game, you kind of almost need to feel that physical drop mechanic that we have. It's hard to translate that to virtual. So, yeah, how has it impacted us? It impacted us.
I would say that we get a little lucky that had we run a little late and bumped into the manufacturing aspect of it, if when manufacturing slowed down because of it, that would have been much worse.
Much worse. We got in, as you said, just before COVID hit China. Our manufacturing was done. Now, some of our shipments were delayed getting out of China because that's when they were just dealing with everything. But we still managed to fulfill almost everyone on time in February. Then we did have some delays with Brazil and some of the Europe. But
well done.
We made do.
Has it changed your, obviously, as all of us, as companies and small businesses within the industry, we have to keep going. We have to keep finding ways of being able to continue to exist. So, what changed for you guys? Did you start to look at the worldwide distribution and the likes?
Yeah, I guess I'll answer this one too. So, what we had to do, what we decided was probably important for this year was, first of all, embracing e-commerce way sooner than we expected. We fully expected eventually we'd get an online store and we'd start distribution centers and fulfillment hubs, but we did not expect to do that in February of this year. But that's what we scrambled pretty quickly to set up. We had a great relationship already with Fun Again Games in the United States. They were our fulfillment arm for the US, and then they helped us with Canada fulfillment as well. So we established a direct integration between our storefront and their warehouse so that we could take orders and they just pass right through and we're out of it. People pay online and orders ship out from the warehouse. Great. Then the next step was, okay, in this industry, we need US and we need Europe distribution as our primary kind of hotspots. And so we are just now finalizing building out our Germany warehouse where we will be able to fulfill for all of Europe. I don't know for you guys in the UK with Brexit. We'll see what happens at the end of this year. I don't quite know what the VAT situation is going to be yet, but we're basically formally VAT certified now in Germany, and so when we sell products on our store, to anyone in Europe, that will be included, and and then fulfillment straight from Germany. So we have a pretty good. I think we scrambled pretty quickly to get up a decent infrastructure, and we definitely felt that we needed to try this virtual thing. Hence, we're talking to you folks.
Yeah.
And B, we need to have real worldwide distribution capability, and some kinks in the process, but that's what we're focused on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to wait and see on Brexit. I'll be honest, most of us over here just treat it as another layer of 2020. It's throwing everything at us.
And no one knows yet, right?
We just do it. Right. I want to talk about Dungeon Drop. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the game, and then we can look at what the future holds for it?
Yeah, Scott, do you want to talk about Dungeon Drop?
Sure. So Dungeon Drop was a game. It's a contest winner with the Game Crafter online for a contest where you had to design a game that had no printed components of any kind. It definitely does now. That was the second phase of development with Faceship. But originally, the kind of unique mechanic, which is essentially you scoop up a whole bunch of colorful, shiny bits and you drop them onto the table, literally. That part came from that design restriction. And sort of the concept was that when you dropped all these bits on the table, if you knew what were the pillar cubes, that you could essentially see a map of a dungeon and all the good stuff and bad stuff, treasure and monsters inside. And you could decide to slice up this space in different ways, collecting whatever was inside that slice. And that's kind of the core of the game. With Phase Shift, obviously we took that another level further. Now we've got charming artwork, and we've got the ability to take special actions. You get a unique kind of race and class combination to start the game, which give you different ways to mess with the game's rules, basically, and took care of some of the flaws we saw early on. So it's been an absolutely great collaborative relationship ever since I connected with Jason and Darren. We've worked really steadily on this, and the Kickstarter went way better than we expected, but I do firmly believe is due to all their really, really hard work. Now we're here. It's great. It's hard to lose this convention season, but I know long term we'll figure that out as well.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us a little bit of an explanation of how the game is played? Just a quick overview.
Just to continue that, so you drop those color bits all over the table, and like I said, more specifically, to loot a room. Again, first you're going to take a race or class ability that allows you to kind of manipulate this space in some way. And then looting a room is to find a triangle, a triangular space between 3 pillar cubes that doesn't contain another pillar inside that space, and doesn't kill your character, doesn't require you to take too many monsters that you're going to lose your last health point. You don't die in this game. It just becomes a restriction in terms of making that space. And you get all sorts of good stuff inside, treasure chests and keys and gems that you have an individual quest that gives you a special scoring that nobody else knows. It lets you know how you value the 3 different color of gems, so everybody values stuff a little differently. It's very quick. It plays in, once you know the game, probably 15-20 minutes. It's a family-friendly game, very tactile. You get 3 dives into the dungeon in a game, 3 of these turns, and then that's it. Game over. So you have to be very careful with how you use the space. And now we're developing, we've got a solo mode that came out of the Kickstarter. So it is playable now as a solo game. And we're currently developing what I think is going to be a really, really awesome co-op mode as well right now. That'll be hopefully part of our upcoming expansion.
Well, let's talk about the expansion. Dungeon Drop dropped Too Deep, scheduled for October. What can you tell us about it, guys?
Do you guys want to talk for a bit? Or you want me to keep going? I'm happy to.
Sure. Do you want to talk about what all's in our?
Well, I can talk about, I've been I do a lot of the graphic design, and so I've been focusing on other aspects. So it was interesting for me today was the first time I got to actually play Drop Too Deep with everybody here. We did it earlier today, and I can tell you it's fantastic. What we've done is we've added some huge monsters. Each of the monsters have their own special abilities. We've added new characters and new races and their special abilities. And what I would say is my favorite part, and right as of today is my favorite way of playing the game, is the cooperative mode. The thing that's interesting about Dungeon Drop is like, yeah, we have the base game, which is sort of like, say 2 to 4 players against each other. Then we have solo mode, and now we have the cooperative. And they are all at spirit the same, but they play differently enough that it really is quite a bit of a different experience, even between 3. Like, as you know, maybe sometimes when you're playing a solo game, it is really just some AI taking over for another character. That's not what it's like in our game. When you actually do somewhat different things because you're in solo mode and cooperative mode is even the same, where you're actually trying to fulfill quests as a group. So the thing that I love cooperative games in general, but the thing I really love about this game is how flexible it is in its core mechanic, spreading out to different gameplay experiences.
Awesome.
It's an interesting concept, the fact that as those main resource cubes are dropping along with the pillar cubes, you're getting a geometric 2-dimensional space that you're then trying to figure out where is the most efficient room and space for me to take the resources I need to either gain the win or gain the quests in your co-op mode. Very interesting.
Spoken like a true alpha striker.
Actually, I have a mind that runs mechanics, and I like the look of this. It's intriguing me.
So what can we expect from the new Kickstarter then in Drop 2D?
So we're going to do a few things that we did not do the first time around. We purposely chose to keep the first Kickstarter really simple because it was our first Kickstarter. We wanted to make sure we weren't overcomplicating things, and we didn't want to screw anything up. But what we didn't do was we did not include walls. And a lot of fans asked for a wall structure that the cubes would not be able to green mat, which again, a lot of fans were asking for some kind of a mat. And so those are going to be add-ons that we definitely have as part of this. Yeah, it's not really showing up. Right?
Faceship Games is phasing.
We already told you. Yeah, we already told you about the co-op mode, and that's something we only just started telling people about. In fact, we showed it earlier today. We kind of unveiled it, and it's just I'm kind of the opposite there. I don't usually like co-op modes because for me, one of the things that I think detracts from co-op modes is that, like you said, there's an AI, and it's, in a way, it's kind of like formulaic. Once you figure out the formula, once you figure out the engine, there's a correct best move, and that's part of what leads to the whole alpha syndrome. It's like, well, that's your best move because it actually very often is the best move. Whereas in this, it because of the infinite nature, the fact that anything can literally happen because of the spatial element in the game, it just does create a whole different experience. And I'm kind of with Darren. The favorite mode for me to play in now is also that co-op mode.
It's almost its own game. I mean, it's almost its own entire separate game, even though it uses all the same components.
Yeah. So that being a part of the Kickstarter, that wasn't when we set out a couple months ago and decided we kind of said, what are we going to do in the fall? We're not ready for Drop Drive. That's for next year. So what are we going to do? We got to do something to keep especially this year, to keep that kind of momentum going. So we said, what if we do like a small expansion for Dungeon Drop? We can include some more monsters, some more races, class, just kind of like a content pack. And then we're like, oh, but what if we did this? And then we said, oh, what if we had, can we do a co-op mode? And like started just going crazy with all these things. And it just developed into what it is. It is so expandable. So that's it. I mean, we're very excited about this. Expanding the base game. The base game only came with one huge monster in the dungeon, and it was the dragon. The dragon was like the big bad. Now we're going to like 8. and every game will have a different assortment of huge monsters in it, up to like 3 in a dungeon. And there's all different. We showed a Cyclops and a Beholder and a Flame Demon and a Lich. There's just all these different, the Goblin King, and it just adds that much more richness and character to this dungeon. So that's what we are bringing to Kickstarter.
Fantastic.
Yeah, if I could just jump in on that other sort of part of the expansion. Obviously, you can probably tell we're getting more and more excited about the co-op mode that's developing. the first part of it, the huge monsters that Jason's talking about, the other big piece of it is creating monsters that function in a different way than the rest of the monsters in the game, which kind of just land where they are and then they become sort of obstacles. But these huge monsters now, all of them are unique and active in the dungeon. So every round they have a triggered effect on the game state as long as they're still in the dungeon, which really gives them a lot more fun presence, and there's different decisions about when you'd want to take one down if you can. So yeah, there's some really fun stuff going on with what we've added to the normal game experience, and now co-op as well, which all this huge monster stuff translates over there as well.
Yeah,
cool.
You had mentioned Drop Drive, guys. That's that's a new game next year, I imagine. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, I can pick up a little bit there. The idea was, like we keep saying, I mean, this core mechanic of dropping this random assortment of stuff, and I think where we're in kind of a new design space, if we drop a bunch of stuff randomly, we can create essentially a random arrangement of items on the table. But I think where we're in some new spaces, that it's not a purely dexterity game. And in fact, when you see it at first, it looks like it's a dexterity game. You'd have to be flicking these things around. We do have those elements, but it's possible to play this game. We even have a version that has no dexterity elements. You can play it without. It's a much more spatial kind of game experience. And we found this really fertile design space. You're seeing it evolve in all these different directions. And but that's just with the core dungeon drop model of forming these triangular rooms. What Drop Drive does is it starts with this random assortment, kind of with this wealth of experience now that we've had designing in this spatial area, but takes it in a fully different mechanical direction, where you are in this space, in this case, as like a little rogue trading vessel that evolves over the course of the game, and you are literally navigating the tabletop spatially with what we refer to as your string drive, which literally gives you a amount of space and configuration that you can move through the tabletop and collect stuff and adventure and upgrade your ship and find little alien specimens along the way, deliver them to planets, explore, but all in this spatial. So it's a totally different game than Dungeon Drop, but it looks the same at first. It kind of starts with the same seed, kind of this big bang explosion of a solar system now, but you explore it in a really different way. And in fact, you have two ways to navigate the space. One is your string drive that sort of carves a path through the space. The other is using your drop drive, which allows you to pick your ship up, move it anywhere on the table, but then drop it vertically from a certain height that is sort of the accuracy of your engine, and re-enter the play space.
Wow.
Interesting. Now, I do have one question. What size are the boxes for this game? Because these look to be what I would call the perfect con game. So if you're coming to a convention, this is something you can very easily drop in your backpack, not going to weigh a lot, and you guys could literally just find a corner of a convention somewhere on the floor, lay it out, and off you go.
Yep. There you go. So this is the box.
Perfect.
It is 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. And I'm trying to get it so that the green screen doesn't wipe it out. But yep, so that's the size of the box, both the original and then this is the expansion prototype box that we're playing with. And Drop Drive is also right now planned to have the same. I mean, we just think that there's something cute and unique. I mean, obviously with the games themselves, but the box reinforces it. I'm actually surprised that there haven't been other games with a cubicle shaped box before, other than a Minecraft toy. I don't think I've ever really seen one. So
yeah,
that was something we thought of earlier on, and we said, hey, what if all of our games in this like family line, whether they're all drop games or not, right now they happen to be these drop style games, but what if they all just had the same format, the same footprint, and they look really cool on a shelf next to each other. It's just another uniqueness that we think we brought to it.
As a whole, with all of the games, I think one of the things that is really interesting is we take some kind of tried and true concepts like dungeon delving or pick up and deliver, but with our infinite possibilities of creating the space through a random dropping of items, it takes something that's familiar but makes it really very different and also extremely accessible to families. So it's almost like in some ways we kind of think of it as sort of like people who are really maybe a little more hobbyist gamers would love to get this to play with their young kids. Not that adults couldn't have fun with it as well, but it's sort of like I think it bridges that middle ground where both a hobbyist and more of a mainstream gamer can enjoy the product.
Yeah, I mean, like I could definitely see this sitting on a Waterstone shelf here in the UK.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, what else is on the horizon for Faceship Games? Have we lost you?
So do we have the expansion in October, and we have Drop Drive next year. Oh, no.
Oh, we lost you for a
it's
second.
okay.
You're back.
You're back. Don't worry.
Oh.
Hey, Jason and Darren from Faceship Games. So we have our expansion Kickstarter in October. We have Drop Drive coming up next year. And then what we actually have not talked about at all this entire weekend is that there was a game that we signed, and it was a game that I actually designed under another design company's brand that we were originally planning to launch first and then decided to focus on the small games initially, just kind of get going. Frankly, doing better than we ever expected they would. And that game is called Queen's Quest. We have a page for it up on our site already. It's a pixel art dungeon crawler. It is a deeper dungeon crawler. Right. It's not a small cubicle box game. It's a deeper dungeon crawler.
More hobby-oriented.
Hobby-oriented cooperative gaming experience. And that is still very much in development, pretty much at the end. And that will probably launch next year as well. So that's the bigger thing on the horizon. And that has a lot of expansion potential as well. So really exciting.
It has a really neat, that whole like pixel art look. It really has a very intriguing. Yeah, it's right up our alley as well.
In fact, once Dungeon Drop really did so well, and then we realized, heck, Queen's Quest may actually be launched in the Dungeon Drop universe, where originally it was going to be vice versa.
Right.
We also, kind of thought about it. We said, hey, let's back up for a second. If what makes Dungeon Drop unique is this drop mechanic, is there a way to build a drop mechanic
back into
Queen's Quest? And not to artificially force it in a hacky way, but just like, let's see if there's something there. And it is not the central part of the game, but it is now a part of the combat mechanism. And that is one of the ways that we get around like dungeon crawlers. There's a lot of them out there, and they have a lot of similar, battle mechanics, but this is different. And so we're excited about what that could mean as well for Queen's Quest.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Guys, so if we can cut to this.
Oh, you want the... Yep.
Yeah. So if you're watching, go and check out Faceship Games stand at the virtual hall. You can connect to them via Twitch, and you can hop onto their Discord channel as well. They have had demos running today and yesterday, but you're also running demos between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. tomorrow, guys. Is that correct?
Yeah, those are actual. You can actually play Dungeon Drop with another of our team members, Brad. He'll meet you in Discord, and you can, if you have Tabletop Simulator, you can play Dungeon Drop on that, and he'll host and teach and then play a game with you.
Awesome.
So that's happening. It's shorter hours because earlier is when we sleep in America.
Yes.
But today he was on for 4 hours doing it. Yesterday he was on for 4 hours doing it, and then tomorrow during that.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. Definitely, there are still demos open for you to get in and get a look at Dungeon Drop. And if people are looking to buy it, guys, head to the faceshiftgames.com website, and I would imagine click through to the store, and that gives you an option for the European store or the US store. And you go in and you can find the products in there.
But let me caveat that we don't have the game itself on our site. We have all the other add-ons, and we're giving a 20% show discount for all the other add-ons. The discount is Virtually Expo. But if you want the game itself, there are 4 participating Virtually Expo retailers.
Okay.
And if you go to our booth page lists out which of those 4 retailers they are. They're all part of the Coiled Spring network of retailers. So
there we go. So Leisure Games, Whaling Games, Chaos Cards, and Games Quest.
Very
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Look, Jason, Darren, Scott, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening to tell us. The game is genius. I'm watching the chat here, and everybody's going, this is genius. Why has nobody thought of this before? It's a wonderful, wonderful concept, and I can't wait to see how it expands and grows through these expansions that you guys have coming down the pipeline.